Welcome to another deep dive, everybody.
Mm.
Today we're going to explore a really ambitious project happening in Israel.
Okay.
And, we talk a lot about autonomous vehicles and smart cities. Well, this is a project that's actually laying the groundwork to make all of that possible.
Wow.
We're going to be looking at Medida. It's a surveying company.
Okay.
And they are taking on this huge, huge task of digitizing Israel's entire road network.
The entire road network.
Yeah. So our main source for this deep dive is a really, really fascinating article. It's from GIS International. Have you ever heard of that publication?
I have, yeah. They're really good. I think they focus mostly on geomatics.
Exactly, yeah. And the article is called Digitizing Israel's Road Network with High-End Geospatial Technology.
Catchy.
I know, right? So I'm excited to dig into this.
Yeah, me too.
What I find particularly interesting is just the sheer scale of this project and the level of detail that Medida is going for.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. We're talking about over 8,500 kilometers of roads.
8,500?
Yeah. That's like driving from New York to LA and back.
Wow.
Twice. And it's not just, drawing lines on a map. They're capturing an insane amount of detail for every single feature along those roads.
Yeah, I was reading in the article. I mean, imagine knowing the exact height of every single sign, or like the precise angle, the azimuth, they call it, of every traffic signal.
Oh, wow.
Even, I don't know why you need to know this, but even the depth of every ditch along the side of the road.
Yeah. That's a level of detail that goes way beyond what you'd see on a typical Google map or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, they're essentially building a digital twin of the entire road network. You know what I mean? It's not just a static map.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic three-dimensional model that can be used for, well, all sorts of things, which is what makes this so interesting. And the technology they're using to capture all of this data is, well, it's pretty cutting edge.
Okay, so let's talk tech.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because the article, I was kind of geeking out, reading about drones and 360-degree cameras.
Yeah.
And there's even a little bit of AI magic sprinkled in there.
It's like the whole package.
I was trying to picture, I don't know, like these high-tech drones.
Yeah.
Kind of buzzing over the highways and capturing these crystal clear images.
You got it. That's exactly what they're doing. They're using drones that are equipped with these super high-resolution cameras to take aerial photographs of the entire road network.
The entire network.
Yeah. And it's not just, flying around randomly.
Right.
They're following these pre-programmed paths that are designed to, well, make sure they capture everything systematically. And there's this really important detail they mentioned. They have an 80% overlap between the images.
80%? Why is that so important?
I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really crucial for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
First, it helps them create these super accurate three-dimensional models of the roads, because when you have that much overlap, you can kind of stitch the images together seamlessly.
Right.
And second, it ensures that they don't miss anything. I mean, you wouldn't want a self-driving car to encounter a surprise pothole because the map wasn't detailed enough.
Yeah, that would not be good.
But drones, they're only one part of the story here. They're also using what they call mobile mapping vehicles.
Okay, so are those like the vehicles you sometimes seen driving around with the big camera domes on top?
Exactly. Those are the ones.
I've always wondered how those things work.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. So basically, these vehicles, they drive along the roads.
Okay.
And they have these 360-degree cameras that are constantly capturing imagery as they go.
Okay.
And because they're mobile, they can get data even in places where it's tricky for drones to fly, like, tunnels or areas with really dense tree cover.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So by combining the drone imagery with the data from the mobile mapping vehicles, Medida can create this incredibly comprehensive and accurate digital representation of all the roads.
It sounds really, really efficient. But even with all this fancy technology, we're still talking about, mountains of data, like raw images and scans. How do they even begin to transform all of that into, usable information?
Well, that's where the human element comes in. They have teams of skilled GIS operators. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. And these operators, they meticulously work through all that data. They classify and digitize everything that was captured.
So it's not just the technology, it's the people behind it.
Yeah. It's a real team effort. Imagine having to identify and tag every single sign, lane marking, guardrail, even potholes. They do potholes.
Pothole?
Yeah. from those images. That's the kind of detail we're talking about. It's pretty incredible.
I mean, it's amazing to think about how there's this human element that's still so essential in this massive technological undertaking. I bet they felt some pretty unique challenges along the way, right? I mean, it's such a big project.
Yeah, definitely. The article actually mentions a couple of key hurdles that they had to overcome. One of the big ones was, get this, adapting to working with GIS software.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the team at Cav Medida, they were used to using CAD software, computer-aided design.
Okay, yeah.
Which is great for designing and drafting things, but it's not really ideal for managing and analyzing huge geographic data sets like the ones they were dealing with in this project.
So they basically had to learn a whole new set of tools and workflows to be able to effectively handle this project.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, they had to figure out how to manage these massive data sets efficiently. I mean, traditional GIS software, it can really struggle with processing and displaying data at this scale.
I can imagine. So, I mean, how did they tackle that challenge? Did they just buy bigger, more powerful computers?
Well, that's where their ingenuity really comes into play. Instead of relying on these, super expensive proprietary solutions, they took a different approach. They decided to build a custom server environment using open source QGIS software.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this QGIS solution and why was it such a game changer for them?
Well, first of all, it saved them a ton of money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
QGIS is open source, so it's free to use, which is a huge plus when you're dealing with a project of this magnitude.
I bet. But, I mean, was it powerful enough to handle all of that data? And how did they even know how to build a custom server environment in the first place?
Well, that's the beauty of open source. QGIS has this amazing community of users and developers who are constantly contributing to the software and sharing their expertise.
I see.
So Cav Medida was able to tap into that community, get support when they needed it, and even customize the software to fit their specific workflow. They basically built a system that could handle these massive data sets, process the information efficiently, and display it in a way that was actually user-friendly. And they did it all thanks to their decision to embrace open source technology.
That's really impressive. They turned what could have been a major obstacle into an opportunity for innovation and collaboration.
Right.
It's almost like a DIY spirit,
Totally. They weren't afraid to get their hands dirty and build a solution that perfectly matched their needs. And their ingenuity didn't stop there. They even had a QGIS plugin.
Really?
Yeah, specifically designed for processing their aerial imagery. So this allowed them to automate certain tasks and streamline their workflow even further.
I mean, this is all really impressive. It's a fantastic example of how a company can use technology creatively to achieve their goals. But let's not forget the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
I mean, all this detailed mapping, all this innovation, it's not just about maps, right? It's laying the groundwork for something much bigger.
Right.
We're talking about autonomous vehicles in Israel.
You got it. And that's something we'll explore in much more detail after a quick break.
Welcome back. Now, before the break, we were talking about all this data that Cav Medida is collecting and how it really sets the stage for a future with a lot more self-driving cars.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of get caught up in all the details about drones and cameras and stuff. But I think it's really important to step back and think about the big picture impact of this project.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that. We touched on autonomous vehicles a bit earlier. But how will this digital twin, this super detailed map, actually change the game for self-driving cars?
Okay, so just picture this. Imagine a self-driving car.
Yeah.
Right? And it's navigating through the busy streets of Tel Aviv.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, instead of just relying on its own sensors to figure out what's around it, which, sensors have their limitations.
Right.
This car can actually tap into this incredibly detailed, constantly updated digital twin of the road network.
So it's almost like having a local expert, right?
Yeah.
Like sitting in the passenger seat.
Yeah, whispering directions and pointing out every pothole and every pedestrian crossing.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's exactly what it's like. This map, it provides this extra layer of certainty for the car. It allows it to anticipate what's coming up ahead.
Right.
And adjust its behavior accordingly. Think about navigating a roundabout.
Oh, yeah.
With this digital twin, the autonomous vehicle would know the exact layout of the roundabout, the number of lanes, even typical traffic patterns at different times of the day.
So it would make navigating complex situations, much safer.
Exactly.
And more efficient.
Yeah, and I think it would be especially helpful in urban areas, right? Where you have all these unexpected obstacles and things changing all the time.
Totally. I mean, like people jaywalking and delivery trucks double parked.
Yeah, exactly. So this digital twin, it can help autonomous vehicles navigate those tricky city streets, react to sudden changes in traffic flow, and even predict what pedestrians and cyclists might do.
It's like giving them a sixth sense almost.
Right. It's pretty amazing. But it's not just about the cars. I mean, this data can also be used to make the entire transportation system smarter and more efficient.
In what way?
Well, think about managing traffic flow more effectively,
Okay.
optimizing traffic light timing.
To reduce all that congestion we were just talking about.
Exactly. And even identifying areas where the roads need to be repaired or improved.
So it sounds like they're not just mapping the roads, they're actually creating a blueprint for a smarter, more efficient, and hopefully a lot safer transportation system.
Precisely. And this is where the whole idea of smart cities really comes in.
Right?
I mean, Kav Medida's work in Israel, it's a perfect example of how detailed digital mapping can lay the foundation for a truly smart city.
So we're talking about using this data to improve everything, right? From traffic management to public transportation to even emergency response times.
Exactly. Imagine a city where the traffic lights adjust in real time based on the actual traffic flow, where autonomous buses provide on-demand transportation, and where, like, fire trucks and ambulances, they can navigate the fastest routes even during rush hour.
That sounds amazing. I mean, it's really exciting to see how technology can be used to tackle some of these really big challenges that cities face all over the world.
Right.
But I'm curious, this project is happening in Israel.
Right.
Are there broader implications globally? I mean, could other countries benefit from this kind of approach?
Absolutely. I mean, what they're doing in Israel, it's definitely a model for the rest of the world. I mean, I think a lot of other countries and cities, they're watching very closely to see how this project unfolds.
So in a way, Israel's kind of a testing ground for the future of transportation.
In a lot of ways, yeah. They're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and they're showing everyone what a truly connected and data-driven transportation system can actually look like.
That's really interesting. And the impact, it goes beyond just the technology itself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this project also really highlights the power of collaboration and out-of-the-box thinking. I mean, they face some pretty big challenges, like having to switch from using CAD software to GIS software.
Yeah.
And figuring out how to work with these absolutely massive data sets. But they came up with some really creative solutions, like embracing open source software.
Yeah. And their willingness to use open source technology and to tap into that knowledge within the QGIS community, I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it really challenges the assumption that you need to rely on, expensive proprietary software to get really groundbreaking results.
Right. Their approach shows how valuable collaboration is and knowledge sharing and just being willing to think differently.
It's a good reminder that some of those powerful solutions, they're often the ones that are shared openly and freely available.
Exactly.
I think that's a great point to kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive. So we've seen how Kav Medida is taking all this cutting-edge technology like drones and 360-degree cameras and combining it with smart software solutions and a real spirit of collaboration. And all of this has allowed them to create this highly accurate and detailed digital twin of Israel's roads.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a project that goes way beyond just making better maps.
It definitely does. I mean, this project, it has the potential to completely transform transportation in Israel. And I think it will influence how cities all over the world approach the future of transportation.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought to keep in mind as we head into the final part of our deep dive. All right, so we're back, and we've been talking all about Kav Medida and their work digitizing Israel's entire road network. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It is a really ambitious undertaking.
We've covered, like, the tech they're using, the challenges they've had to overcome, and all the innovative solutions they came up with, like using open source software. I mean, this is a project that has a ton of potential to change the future of transportation, not just in Israel.
I totally agree, and I think it really speaks to their vision. I mean, they could have just stuck with traditional methods, right? But they chose to push the boundaries, and I think that's what's so exciting about this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Going back to the article we were talking about from Jim International, did they mention any specific examples of how this digital twin is being used today, or like plans for the future? I mean, besides the autonomous vehicle stuff.
Yeah, actually they did. They mentioned that the data Kav Medida is collecting, it's already being used by Nadavi Israel, that's the national roads company in Israel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they're using this data for things like road maintenance and planning.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I mean, instead of relying on, like, outdated maps or sending crews out to physically check every single road, they can just access this real-time model. Right?
Exactly. And because it's so detailed, they can identify areas that need repair, they can plan new construction projects, and they can even simulate the impact of different changes before they actually start building. It's about making smarter decisions.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And what about, like, further down the line? What are some potential applications for this technology, besides road maintenance and self-driving cars?
Well, the possibilities they're pretty much endless when you think about it.
Okay.
I mean, imagine integrating this data with real-time traffic information.
Yeah.
Right? You could create these dynamic navigation systems that route drivers around traffic jams, accidents, stuff like that.
That would be a game changer for my commute.
Yeah,
What else? I mean, what other cool stuff could you do with this?
Well, you could use it for urban planning. City planners could use this digital twin to model the impact of new developments on traffic flow. They could design safer pedestrian walkways. They could even simulate the effects of climate change on infrastructure.
It's like they're not just building a digital twin of the roads. They're building a digital twin of the entire country, bit by bit.
You got it. And it really shows how transformative this technology can be, because it's not just about maps and roads anymore. It's about creating a digital model of the physical world that can be used to understand, analyze, and improve our lives. I mean, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, it's clear that Kav Medida's work is pushing the boundaries of what's possible. I mean, they're paving the way for a smarter, more efficient future, not just for Israel, but potentially for the whole world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. I hope you found it as fascinating as we did. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.